Are we live? We are. Hey, my name is Marc from jazzguitarlessons.net, and welcome to the Tune of the Month Club Days of Wine and Roses September 2018 webinar. So this is an hour-long live session. If you guys want to interact with me, I have this page here. So directly on the YouTube video, see, cannot do this. I will write down, ask your questions here. And Days of Wine and Roses is a tune that I love. It's a good issue this month. Sorry, my computer's still, fan is on. I'm exporting videos. This is what I do. So Days of Wine it's not an easy tune necessarily, but it's interesting because this month's Tune of the Month arrangement is pretty, I'd say it's pretty tame. But the good news is that it's good to learn. It's good to learn things about basic chord melody, how the note can be on top, what you do with chords that you don't know, if you have a top note for the chord that fits the melody, how do you solo and play a bunch of 8 notes and not just play arpeggios and aim for the right notes, right? How do you make a comping that sounds good? We have that. I won't spend too much time on it. But it's a Joe Pass transcription. So it's Joe Pass and Ella Fitzgerald. It's on Easy Living. And this is a pure, just verbatim transcription. So it's a really complete learning package. So for the people that don't know, Tune of the Month Club is this, or was this, all-you-can-eat buffet of jazz guitar information. I was young and foolish. I was a baby, and I said, hey, you know what? Let's do one tune a month. Well, I guess one tune a year would have been enough. So every month we have this chord melody, comping study, and single note solo on a song. Days of Wine and Roses is issue number 39, and we plan on having 50 of those. In fact, I have all the materials for the 50, but I cannot release them all right away. So people that first join the Tune of the Club, they still receive this tune once a month like a magazine. Other people, other members get it. They just naturally get access to everything at the same rate as the other one. Other people, but as part of their membership. That being said, if you have any questions on your membership level, if you have questions or anything, you can go to jazzguitarlessons.net/memberships, plural, and you can see the difference between our different packages. And of course, we're always ready to talk. Use the little chat bubble bottom screen here or here on your screen, depending. You can talk to me, you can talk to Nathan, you can talk to Michelle. If you have any sort of questions, ideas, suggestions, we're all ears and we're really happy. So let's dig into the music right away. I've already took too much time. So what I want to do at first, as I like to do with songs like this that are relatively easy, and you guys, it's not because I don't like you that I do this a lot, it's because I have my computer screen set up right there. And I don't want you to see the mess that's right outside of this frame on all sides of the studio, so I'll keep this here. I'll grab the sheet music from Dropbox, and I will encourage you, if you're looking at this for the first time and you're not so familiar with, analyzing lead sheets and things like that, and knowing, standards, why is this chord followed by this other chord? What's the logic behind it? If you're not used to that, what I'm about to do is going to be extremely valuable. So take notes, pause this video, rewind, and if you're watching this live, because I see some people trickling in slowly, feel free to ask questions right on the YouTube channel. Sometimes Nathan joins me and pings to say hello. You can also watch this video on store.jazzguitarlessons.net, or you can watch it on straight from YouTube. You can ask questions on the YouTube channel. We're always really happy to hear from you. I'm just going to put the video so I can see my big face and put the sheet music, and voila. Okay. Days of Wine and Roses, lead sheet analysis. Go. F major. The days of wine and roses. Something like that. I'm not a singer. So the song is in F major, and the first note is the third of F major. So this is pretty F defining. Then we get an ascending melody that goes to, I'll jump the gun a little bit and tell you that in the fifth bar, actually, we have a G minor 7 with the, so that's 5, 9, 5, 5 on the G minor. Now you have to consider analysis like this in blocks. If you want to make sense of the tune, you have to consider that G minor 7 is the 2 chord of your song. The 2 is important in terms of cadence because it acts like a predominant. You have 2, 5, and 1, so this is the 2. So you can think of harmony, the first 4 bars, as something leading up to 2. A lesser composer, a lesser song would have been F major. Let's just go straight there. Days of Wine and Roses takes a few detours, so goes. That's E flat 7, A minor, D7. Let's deconstruct that a little bit. I'll leave the melody alone because melody does what it does, and we can hear it. The chords are subtle. So we have a D7 chord in bar 4. And I always like to work myself backwards because what we have here is we have G7 coming right after D7. D7 is the 6th chord. You're probably familiar with the 1, 6, 2, 5, 1, 6, 2. 1, 6, 2, 5 is a crucial cycling sort of chord progression that is used extensively in standards, especially in rhythm changes. Rhythm changes is basically a glorified 1, 6, 2, 5. If you're just coming in, by the way, thank you for watching. I'm going through an analysis of the lead sheet, and I'm currently looking at the first 5 bars of Days of Wine and Roses. Just check if I don't have any questions here. No questions. Hey, Jerry's here. Thanks for joining, Jerry. Hope you learned something. Probably not, but hey, never know. Except if we walk downtown Ottawa and we do quartal inversion of quartal voicings. Remember that last year? That was fun. So F major, 1, 6, 2, 5. So work your way backwards from thinking about a 6 chord going to a 2 chord. And then before that 6 chord, you say, well, what if we have the chord that comes before it? So we say, well, A minor 7, D7, G minor. We consider G minor R2 like the new 1. So this is what we would call a secondary dominant or secondary 2-5-1 cadence. So A minor 7, D7, G minor. Sometimes people comp A minor 7 flat 5, D7 altered, sharp 9 to G minor. Missing piece of the puzzle for these first 4 bars is always students going, I'm playing an F major. The days of wine. What's that? E flat 7. What does this have to do with anything? It's flat 7, right? F, that's E natural, and E flat. So the function of it is not necessarily flat 7. What I'm thinking of is really to look at E flat 7 as if it's something that has been tritone substituted, if there's such a way of putting it. And what I mean by this is if E flat were the tritone sub of something, it would be the tritone sub of A natural, right? So here, that would be an interesting little twist because say F major, A7, altered, so I'm doing a flat 13, so that would be A7 13. I'm a flat 13 right now. So that's the 3 chord really. So 1, 3, and that's the dominant chord to D7. So the second bar is in fact a secondary dominant leading to D7. It's a secondary dominant leading to 6. So bar 1 is 1. Bar 2 is 5 of 6. Bar 3 is the real 3. And then bar 4 is 6. And bar 5 is 2. Of course, if I went too fast through all this, you could feel free to rewind. I'm just going to say it one more time. 1. The E flat chord is actually 5 of 6, so it's a 3 chord, but it's dominant. And we go to a real 3 chord in the key of F major, 6, 3. Remember 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. We're always cycling. So think of that E flat 7 as if someone has already made it a tritone sub. Then going to the G minor. Now comes my next favorite part. Hey, we have Dean also commenting. Dean says, you always learn. Thank you, guys. Thanks for the support, and I hope you like it. I'm always trying my best to do a good job of explaining stuff in a simple, calm manner and saying silly things, which is my personality. You know me. Jerry, you've met me in person. You see I'm exactly the same guy on camera. So bar 5 through 8, I want to talk about that 2 chord where the melody goes. Da, 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 da. So it's it's an interesting thing because it's the same pattern repeated twice. The first time it hits a D natural, and the second time it hits a D flat natural. You will notice that some lead sheets will indicate in bar 7, instead of just a plain E flat, that's held for 2 bars, it will indicate E flat minor 7 to E flat 7. I prefer to do that and think about it this way too. I prefer the 2 that is not on most lead sheet, the B flat minor 7 in bar 7, followed by E flat 7, because it creates movement. It does create movement, and the B flat minor 7 chord is a very typical chord in chord progressions. It's the 4 chord, but it's 4 minor. So if you're in F and you play B flat major 7, that's 4, and you do 4 minor. This is in every pop song ever. This isn't Beatles, this isn't jazz everywhere. So thinking of bar 7 as B flat minor allows me to think of it like 4 minor. And my head easily grasps 4 minor because it's everywhere. So that's my little tip on that. Also, worth mentioning, if you work at the first 4 bars and try to understand that, I'm just going to play shell voicing. What's interesting is if you stop looking at chords as symbols and chords as moving to one another, and you just, for songs that you're trying to memorize and you're trying to make sense out of, lingering prepositions. F major 7, just play it like shells without the root. So you're just playing the guide tone. So 3rd and 7, then E flat 7, 3rd and 7, then A minor, 7th and 3rd, and then last one, 3rd and 7th. So if you look at it from this angle, here, I'll just run the first, say, 12 bars of the song, just doing 3rd and 7th. 1, the 2, the days, the days of wine and roses. So it sheds the light on the fact that if things are moving down by half step or so from your E flat chord to your A, there's just one note difference between your guide tones. If this is the case, you have to sort of spy on it and identify yourself that it is going through the cycle. And cycles obey the natural gravity of music. And the natural gravity is, of course, if you have a note, its tendency is to fall down, especially the 7th of the chord. The 7ths are that first dissonance we can hear and we categorize in classical music. And the 7ths need a resolution. You cannot have lingering 7ths in terms of proper classical voice leading and whatnot. So that's a little tip. I will go through the rest of the form quickly, but I'm assuming you can, as a jazz player, do that sort of, do the legwork yourself, do the, okay, is this that? And of course, check your answers, post on the forum, post online, send us an email, and I can help you, figure these things out. Do you have any other questions? No questions so far. Okay. So, oh, by the way, there'll be a time, we'll do the lead sheet analysis. We'll do chord melody. We'll talk about the comping study, the single note solo, and then at the end, I'll take questions. So maybe 10 minutes before 6, or the last 10 minutes, I can take questions. So if you have any, please post them and I'll answer them at this point. So let's go through the form again. First 4 bars. 1, flat 7, which is in fact this guy's 3, 3, 6, 2. B flat as 4 minor, E flat 7, then 3. That's bar 9, 6, 2, 5. That's bar 12. And we're going into bar 13. Bar 13 has E minor 7 flat 5 to A7 to D7. Now you're going to ask, why would we get an E minor 7 flat 5 to A7? it's a secondary minor 2/5 to the key of D minor. And our good old D minor is none other than the relative minor to F major, right? That's the relative minor. So E minor 7 flat 5 to A7 flat 9, whatever, is a secondary 2/5 in bar 13, leading us to D minor, which is 6th chord. Then we have a 2 that is dominant, 2 minor, C7, that's a 5, and I'm going to browse down a tiny bit. Second run through the form, F major, E flat's the same, A minor 7, D7 again, dee da da ba da, dee da ba ba ba. Modern, bloody bro chords. Dee da da, that's where the sauce becomes different. So bar 25, A minor 7, that's 3, 5, and instead of doing 3, 6, instead of doing 2, 5, it does a back cycling like a Joe passing. So you go 3, 6, sharp 4, 7. So we'll still, if you look at bars 25 through the ending, we're still always going through the cycle. So that would have been 3, 6, 2, 5, and we're back to 1. But now it's like 3, 6. So let's go up a whole step. Let's go down and finish it. And even the 2 bars on the lead sheet go something like pure 1, 6, 2, 5, 1, 6, 2, 5. There you go. So that's your lead sheet analysis, and I really insist. I don't always have time to do it live during the webinars, but I really insist that you do this sort of legwork to understand how chords are related to one another. They're never just in a vacuum, like, put this chord symbol there and see what happens. There's a relationship between the melody, which I didn't do too much of today, and there's always a relationship between chords. Think of chords like a journey, like you want to reach a destination, and there are always several pathways to do that. And I will talk about this later, but the comping study is it's fun because you hear Joe pass. Sorry, I'm having this little sore things because of chin-ups. Yeah, I do chin-ups now. I did 15 today. Can you believe it? And Joe is always taking these detours. However, if you analyze chord by chord, like, oh, this guy's crazy. But if you think of it like, you see it like a broader whole, then he's just thinking of destinations and going, I could take this road home or take this other road home. The highway has construction on it. Let's not take the highway. Let's take the scenic route, right? Really, really interesting. Good. If you guys have any questions on the lead sheet, please let me know. It should be pretty straightforward. Now we're going to talk about, I want to mention something. There is a version of, hey, I should have put that lead sheet on the screen. I'll do this next time. Forgot. There is a version of Days of Wine and Roses played by Bill Evans and Toots Tillemans, Belgian chromatic harmonica player, passed away recently, and the album is Affinity. It's a full band. It's Bill Evans' band with a harmonica, basically, and they play that song. And if you like harmonica, which I do, it's really interesting the type of flexibility that this guy brings to the song. It's very airy, cloudy, floating on top of the song, but it's beautiful. Of course, it's Bill Evans. So this is my favorite version. However, some students have asked me, it seems like the lead sheet is wrong. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do. And the process here is that they decide to take the tune a minor third up. So they go, the days of wine and roses. Dee da 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 da. Dee da 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 da. Dee da 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 da. Da dee da 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 dee da 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 dee da da. That's now A flat major, and that's what they do, and they keep the form the same thing as it is in the second part, but they just do everything a minor third up. People do call that at jam sessions. Beware. Okay, I learned my lesson the hard way, where we played it in F, and it was fine. Then we played it in A flat, and then the bass player looked at me, he's like, "Yeah, let's just keep going up." So we played it in B major, which I was clearly not prepared for, and we played it in D major, and then you're back in F. So people do that at jam sessions. They will just go, the song, let's just see if you know it for real. So I reinforce my point in doing this harmonic analysis of your melody, and especially as an accompanist, as a guitar player, you have to know the relationship between chords and know the key, because if you really know your keys and you really know the relationship between chords, then it's just a bunch of number for you. It's like 1, 6, 2, 5. It's not necessarily E flat or A flat or this or that. It's just always relative. So I highly encourage you to do this. And by the same token, I'll encourage you to look at or listen for Bill Evans' version. Sorry, I'm missing a point. Then I want to talk about the chord melody that we built for this tune of the month. So Bill Evans' version, Affinity. There's, of course, the Ella Fitzgerald and Joe Pass version, and there are plenty of other. I wonder who makes a good version. I forgot. Oh, yeah. I was wondering, there's a West solo, one of the first West solo I transcribed. It's for organ trio, and they do that. They go. G minor, A minor, B flat 7, E flat 7. So E flat 7 is the 5 of A flat. Then they go back to F. Wes stays in F, but he uses a sort of cadence that would be applicable in A flat. However, in F, it just sounds like a backdoor. Backdoor is when you come from flat 7, so you come from behind. No silly jokes, please. And you can see this on the website in an article called Ultimate No Nonsense Guide to Jazz Harmonies. Like, it talks about 2/5 cadences, why do we do backdoor, secondary dominance, tag endings, and all this vernacular that we use in jazz is kind of sort of described in this article. So I was always wondering if Bill Evans took inspiration from the West recording, where there's a cadence that could apply in A flat, a minor third up, but it doesn't. Anyways, so Wes, Bill, and of course Ella and Joe Bass. Now let's take a quick look at the chord melody for this one, and I think it's as far as tunes of the months go, it's one of the most basic ones because it's very pedantic. If there's a melody note, there is a chord immediately under it. It's harmonized. There's no arpeggiation. There's no surprise. There's no surprise. No big surprising substitutions, because we get creative with these tunes of the month. We've had these open strings things and classical style and whatnot. So let's just go through it quickly, and I'll stop if I find something interesting. C7, the days, playing F major 7. The E flat here. If you don't know that dominant chord shape, memorize it. This is 9, and then there's 13 on top. This is really worth your while because it's applicable everywhere. Then we're going to an A minor, then a plain D9. It's not even a full D9, then 2. These 2 diminished chords that act like D7 flat 9. Then notice we have an F going to an F sharp. A G going to an F sharp to an F. So no surprise there. That's a B flat, as I was telling you, a lot of people do. Then this is melodically, you can just strike a chord. I'm in bar 8 now. You can strum the chord and go to your next melody note without holding. So I'm saying it's not a very tough chord melody. Then our A minor, one of our favorite open strings shape, open A. Then this in bar 9, get A, C, C sharp, D, which is one of the only places in that arrangement we have ascending bass lines to make sense of the whole. So something like that. Another case in point, this is D minor, plain D minor 7. This guy is tougher. This is the one called the chord of despair. However, it's a D7 chord, and the D note is on top. It's bar 10, fourth beat of bar 10, D7 alt. What's fun with that chord? Here, we have the guide tones. You have the third and 7. Then we have sharp 9, sharp 5, and tonic. But this, it's in fact an upper structure triad. This is a B flat major triad on top of a third and 7th of D7. So you need to learn this skill. This guy has to become my middle finger. It has to become so flexible and so strong so that you can do this. You flatten this guy out. That sound. So once again, from bar 9. Now bar 11, we get a G minor, G minor 11, G minor 7. Then the C13. I like the fact that we have, so they're all thirds that are descending. The first one is a basic C13 chord, then you do this to save time. And this guy, the third beat winds up being a sharp 11 because it passes well in this harmonization. It goes, it's all parallel. Then, so that's E minor 7 flat 5 with an added 11. Bar 13 and 14, no surprise. And I like this move. So it's flat 9, sharp 5, or we say alt. Then we move on to the bar 17, the second page. There's a little more action. So E minor of some sort, E sus, used as a passing tone to go down to our E flat. So that's E flat 13. Then D altered back to D7 just to keep our melody on top. Then we have another strange one. What is this? I forgot. Sorry guys, I hate practicing on camera. Let's skip over that bar. So that's bar 20. We have a uncommon use of D7 sharp 9. And we have bar 21. We have the opposite. So the first time we hit the G minor in bar 5, we went. Now we're gonna go. It goes F, F sharp, G. Then, of course, our C13. Then, so bar 25 now we have, I'm gonna put this higher on the screen, sorry guys. We have the most action I'm ever seeing. So I'm gonna check on questions, and we have Jerry saying, oh, Stairway to Heaven, of course. Yeah, this whole, this is the diminished. In fact, I talked to Greg Amiro, which has a few courses on the platform on my website, and he says he wants to build a whole jazz course around Stairway to Heaven. So something like Stairway to Jazz Heaven, and see how many licks we can extract from that simple melodic idea that comes from that song. And also Jerry says bar 10, D7 alt is A flat 13 sharp 11. It is because when you do tritone substitution, if one is altered, the other one is often 13 sharp 11. It's like you have one that's very hyper and very much altered, and the other one is not much. So same with bar 2 when I said instead of considering it like an E flat 7, consider it like an A7. So it would be A7 flat 13 flat 9 sharp 9, so fully A7 altered. And what it winds up being a lot in the chord melody arrangement is A flat 13 sharp 11, and that's the it's like the Nash equilibrium. I just watched Beautiful Mind recently last week. So it's the equilibrium between, if you do a tritone sub, one of the two will wind up being very unaltered. Often 13 sharp 11, a pretty natural chord, and the other one winds up being this crazy thing. So the D7 altered in bar 10, this guy with the D on top shares this, the third and seventh of D are also the third and seventh of A flat. So this chord is a good version of A flat. So is this guy. Same voicing, just down the tritone. Sorry. That's dark stuff. Love this stuff. I'm going to go back to where we were at bar 25 in the chord melody now. I'm so running out of time. This is crazy, guys. Already half an hour passed by like this. So the most challenging part of this arrangement lies in bars 25 and 26. And the reason for this is if we simply look at the bass note, we go sorry. So it's like the bass line is ascending and the chords kind of follow, and of course the melody is on top and it just goes, which I was attempting to sing. And this is the part where I told you we're reaching for that B chord, which is the sharp 4. Instead of going 3, 6, 2, 5, we go 3, 6, whole step up, then down to 3, 6. So we are reaching the crescendo, and by density of chord, we are reaching this high point in the piece, which is the highest note, but also the tenser chord that needs the most release. So I'm gonna do this slowly on the screen. A minor 7, B flat. First inversion of A minor, then going in bar 26, we're seeing this. So you'll notice the density. It's so interesting to just play the bass note. Then add the bass note and just the melody. Sorry. It is flawless voice leading as it ascends with the melody, but not strictly on the bass of each of the chords, and we're adding chords in between, such as this A7 altered on beat 1, and the F triad over E flat, then the C over E, the first inversion C. This is a brilliant passage. Then we relax with a good old Hendrix chord, E7 sharp 9, Purple Haze, and then the ending is pretty tame. Melody following typical chords. Then we have a tad Dameron turnaround, so this, while keeping the F on top. That was the goal. I'm going to repeat that. So that's bar 31 and 32. F, cowboy F, to an A flat major 13 to keep the F on top, to a D flat 6 to keep the F on top, to a G flat major 7, which you could have played here. So, whoops. This. So again. And now for dessert, the chord that I'm going to spend a little bit of time on. So this is, the bottom 3 strings have this F major triad. So C, F, and A. Now we have an open G, which already rubs with that A note. Then we have an open E and an F again. So we have a rub of a major second and the rub of a minor second. So pretty interesting, but rather basic chord melody on the website. Days of Wine. So that's one of the ones I would recommend people go through it front to back, memorize it, and be able to perform it at jam sessions. And then as you gain familiarity, you can start to add arpeggiation, remove notes from the chords, things like that. Add comping in between. And on. So I'll check on questions. No questions so far. Thank you for listening, guys. We have about 20 or so minutes left, and I'm going to jump the gun a little bit and talk about the comping study, the Joe Pass comping study, but very fast, and take a little sip. As you know, there's no way I can talk fast like this for an hour without a good, strong cup of coffee. And my friends here, for the record, personal story, I went fishing. I went in the wood to a hunting camp, basically. And we went fishing in this wild lake, and I made friends with two loons, which, Canadian currency is the loonie for you guys that are not from here. So it's interesting. I would call the loons, and they would reply and come and see me. That's amazing. I didn't see any of those, though. And I won't even pretend I can say it in English. This word is unpronounceable. Okay, so comping study. Joe Pass and Ella on Easy Living. I just want to give you the chance, go and listen to the album. Make sure you listen to the introduction on the Tune of the Month here so that you understand. Ella and Joe take it to G major, I think, on the recording. We did not do that, but we did a verbatim transcription and put it down in F major. It's exquisite. There's no other words. Joe was, a legend. And it's so interesting that he varies the pathways. But what I think you could take advantage of this by listening to the original, then listening to what we put as far as video on the website for us, and then try to identify those cliches, because there's not much. I mean, there's no really, really difficult chord shapes. As I talked to about a year ago, I talked to Greg Clayton, Montreal jazz guitar great. He's been around, like, veteran jazz guitar great, teaches at McGill, etc. And Greg was so kind to share this anecdote where he went to see Joe play on a given night and said, Joe's in town. Joe Pass is in town. I'm going to get a lesson from him. Go and jam with him in his hotel room if possible. So Joe was welcoming, and Greg had questions for Joe Pass and go, how do you play that chord? When do you play it? How do you play it? And Joe just went, oh, this is way too hard. I don't play that chord. And at this moment, I realized, like, okay, Joe Pass was very pragmatic in the sense that making better use of what you already know, changing it rhythmically, doing a little walking bass with it, changing an arpeggio with it, or finding a new way to get, I said, new passages, new pathways to go to the same place. That was his thing, was to produce beauty from that standpoint, and not necessarily to produce beauty from technical difficulty or complexity. Often it was really, really simple, but so well executed and so well thought of that it would fit the context perfectly. So that's what I think you should hear. I'm going to pull it out and play a couple of licks for you. Comping licks. Basically, I want to start with the ending, because this is so Joe, and you can amass so many of those. So check this out. You've heard this how many times? Whoop, sorry. One last time. Such a great way to end the song. There's substitute, there's this and that, but in the end, this is just G minor 7 to C13 going to F. But the way he would put a little melody in between, and the way it would vary the rhythm, would go, oh wow, this is brilliant. And now you learn this and you play it on all your songs. So that's what I'm encouraging you to take a look at. Also take a look at bars 25 in that study. So he goes, So you get these punches up, but not on every chord. I'm going to try to do a better job this time. These little things that are perfect for sitting behind someone like a sax player or singer. Other than that, I'll leave it to you to find. Oh, one last lick, bar 5 and 6, where typically 5, 6, 7, and 8, where typically would be G minor 2 bars and E flat 7 2 bars. So it goes like this. Sorry, Joe. I massacred it, but you see he's using G minor, A minor 7, B flat minor, A minor, G minor, oh, B flat minor. Then he's just like going, I'm not going to sit on that chord forever. I'm going to, create movement, because the melody at this point, melody, singer does nothing. I'm going to do something. And other places where singer's doing something, he's quieter. So this is a really neat and interesting little study. As part of your study package to be able to play it better on Days of Wine and Roses. I'm gonna see if new passages by Joe Pass. Oh, good one, Jerry. That's a comment on the YouTube. In case you're not watching this live, uh, passages by Joe Pass. If I were Joe, I would totally publish a book and go passages. In fact, his name was Pasaclia. I'm gonna Google this real quick. Joe Pass, American jazz guitarist. He's from Pennsylvania. Joseph Anthony Jacobi Passalacqua. That was from Italian origins. Um, so yeah, if you don't, there's the Joe Pass guitar method. There's Joe Pass chord study. There's Joe Pass chord melody. There's several little books with his face on it, and it's worth every penny. And every ounce, every little second you spend with that book and your guitar is going to be worth it. I promise. There's one that what's his name? Greg lent to me at some point. And it's just, hey, here's comping for 2 courses on B flat blues, and you study this, and you're like, how didn't I think of that sooner? Great, great, great material to study. Okay, and Joe Pass rant here. We are done with the chord melody. We are done with the comping study. And now we're going to look into the single note solo. But before, I want to have a good discussion about change running before we attack this, per se, the single note solo. So Days of Wine and Roses is a good song for learning to do change running. And by change running, I mean being able to hit tones on strong beats. So beats 1 and beat 3 are a case in point. And people will tend to start learning guitar at jazz guitar improvisation and really rely on arpeggios. The problem with arpeggios is that you're leaving a sense of wanting or longing to your listener if you're not resolving properly, because each note in the scale has its own tendency to want to resolve down or up, or there's an intricate maze. So often playing arpeggios, you'll wind up sounding like not that you don't know what you're doing, but you'll wind up sounding like you're applying a formula, more or less, because you won't necessarily produce lines that are very singable. So the approach to solve this is to know which notes are in the arpeggio, because of course students have to learn their arpeggios and scales and whatnot. That's part of the deal. But then you will target arpeggio notes, and precisely the third, the fifth, the seventh, the tonic. Try to resolve your thirds, and once you can place those on strong beats, then you can fill in the blank with putty, and your putty can be bebop scales, can be chromatic notes, it can be actual diatonic scales. So I think the song is good for that, and it's also a song that's good to learn to do FM. And I say FM in the sense that you can learn to target tones by using pickups. So I'll give you a quick example on Days of Wine now. I have my backing track set up. And one way to do it is, say I will aim for the third of each chord in the first 8 bars, and I'll add a pickup note. So it's going to be a 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, ba-doo-ba-dum, ba-doo-ba-ding, ba-doo-ba-eh. So if you do this on beat 1, you wind up with 3 notes prior to beat 1. That's what I teach all my students. Ready? A 1, 2, 3. Right? So see what I did there? I only played streams of 4 8 notes, starting with the end of 3 and actually landing on the 1. That's a concept of forward motion. And what did I write here? I can't read my own reading, but basically what I'm saying is this is a good song to do this because chords are easy. You do 3, 6, 2, 5, etc. You do 4 minor. There's a little pass at the end, so it's really see Joe pass again. So it's a really good song to do that on. Now I'm going to try to demonstrate that you can also do this, but aim on beats 3 and beat 4. So I'm going to aim to play one of the basic notes, one of the 3rd, 5th, 7th, or tonic on strong beats, not just on beat 1, but on beat 1 and 3. Check this out. No pickup. If I were to simply put 3 8 notes pickup before each of those that I played, so I played on 1 and I played on 3, so I'd go what you wind up doing is playing a stream of 8 notes. And that's what Joe, speaking of Joe Pass, said also. He said, you really find out if you're able to solo on a song, if you're able to do a stream of 8 notes. Doesn't have to be the best solo in the world. There's no phrasing, there's no articulation. You just play 8 notes without stopping while still being proper, true to the scale and true to whatever chord tones are happening. If you can do this properly, then you got it down. But it's hard to wing it, and there's also Galbraith documents about this. So I'm going to try to do what I told you I would do, basically, which is now that I have my anchors on beats 1 and beat 3. I'm going to add 3 pickup notes to each anchor. Of course, I'm all improvising all of this, so there might be mistakes. So don't take my word for it, but I'll give you an idea at least. Ready? A 1, 2, 3. So I was even able to start to launch into 16th notes. So that's really the process that I recommend you go with, that you can target your notes and go, oh, that's the 3rd, that's the 5th, that's the 7th, but do it in real time and eventually learn to where scales fit into that big picture. I'll just check out if we have any questions on this. No question, just talking about Joe Pass a little bit. Pasalacqua. That's Joe's name. Joe Pass. These guys all have, so Joe Pass, such a good jazz name, like Jim Hall. Such a good name to play jazz, right? Miles Davis, short names. I think my name is too long to play jazz. That's what's happening. So now that I told you what change running is about and what you can expect, I will just tell you to take a look at the single note study. So that's single note study starts now. because I'm trying to delineate, these times within our videos, not to be just a whole 1 hour long mess of jazz guitar information. So the solo is really pedantic. There's not much in way of phrasing, but if you do observe, and I could do this on the screen right now. Yes, share screen, screen share. Yay, share screen. Here you go. So I won't let this take all of the screen, but I can zoom it in to really show you where we're going. So see, that's the screen. I should totally hide this. Sorry, guys. Here. Okay. So this is F major 7, and as you'll notice, I'm gonna hide. Can I hide the rest? No, I can't. So this note here, the A, really is the third of F major 7. So what we're doing is we're doing this. A 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1. And we're systematically starting to do this on each strongly. So that's beat 1, 2, beat 3 right here. Of course, that's why we separate our 8 notes here. So beat 3, we have a C note. And now I say, all right, so third, fifth, and we go. We did pure chromatic ornaments to reach the third of F and then the fifth of F. And now let's look at E flat 7. See by the side of the screen right here. So we get a B flat note. That's the fifth of E flat. How do we reach that? Again, by chromatics. Now let's keep looking, and I'll just put. Is this moving? Yeah. Okay. I'll just put the target note by the edge of the screen here. So you have an E flat. So E flat is just the tonic. So this start. So this is just descending the scale right before A, B, and F, A, G, and F. Now let's see what happens on A minor 7. We're going to hit the third, and the third is approached by this. Cool. Fun to add a little bit of variety because previously it was all. That's also a bebop lick. So use of the bebop lick here, then I could continue and go on like this for the entire piece, and it always works. Here we have a little triplet, a little exception, but you have to remember that all the important notes are falling on beats 1 and 3. It's a bit, in fact, it's not a timeless solo you'd want to hear over and over again. It's just a solo that it does its job as far as a learning tool for soloing on jazz, and it's using, see here for instance, there's a pass of, I don't know if you see my cursor here, but on the A7 there's a bit of passive arpeggio, and then it continues with scales and then some leaps. So I'm gonna look at bar 15 and go so that's very common. So some passes of broken down arpeggio, some passes using chromatic, some passes using scales, some using triplets, sometimes using 8 notes. It's not very phrased. It's mostly 8 notes. But if you guys can make sense out of this solo, you're going to be much closer to be mastering improv. And I've played it. In fact, this is a type of stuff that's so easy that this is a sight reading solo for me. I put the metronome at 100 and I can sight read it without making a mistake. It tells you how much it's inside. It's so always inside, and it's always hitting important notes, and not even the ninth. We're not even targeting extensions. We're only targeting important tones. So I think I have a guest coming in the house. I hope it's someone that belongs here. Okay, I'm back on camera saying silly things again. So that's it for the single note solo. Typically, I will keep the last 10 minutes. Now we have about 4 minutes left. Do you guys, whoever's attending online, have any questions? please post them here. I let my little not the window open, but the curtains open because it was a whitey day. Now see the sun is shining right in my face. This is a great way to end the webinar. And of course, if you guys don't have any questions, I'm going to stop it here. Remember, you can always ask questions later. You can watch this video and replay. Use the store, use our little chat bubble, use email. You can reach me now, Marc at jazzguitarlessons.net. And we have Jerry here saying, Gracia, Marco Seguinalrello. Yeah, I worked in an Italian restaurant in Saint Laurent, Ville Saint Laurent, actually, the city of Saint Laurent in Montreal. And they gave me a name, an Italian equivalent. That was interesting. They have good taste in wine and pasta. Wow. So if you don't have anything, if there's no question precisely, I'm going to let you guys go. Feel free to always reach out. Marc at jazzguitarlessons.net. That's me. Or admin at jazzguitarlessons.net. Support at jazzguitarlessons.net. Make up your own address at jazzguitarlessons.net. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. Stay tuned. If you like these, we have one coming up for every individual song. I think we missed a few months back last year when I was sick, but we have really something fun times coming ahead with these analyses that I don't always include in the courses, but that I do after the fact in the video. What's fun also, if you're a member, you can ask your questions ahead of time and see if I can get to answer them. So always a pleasure, guys. Once again, let you go. I don't know what else to tell you on that song for now. So work hard, practice chromatic, getting to the guide tones, practice your chord melody, listen to Joe Pass, and I'll see you in the next video. My name is Marc from jazzguitarlessons.net. Improve your jazz guitar playing with a real teacher. Take care. See you next time.